All right, let's dive into some of the most powerful and honestly kind of mind-bending ideas about money from Morgan Housel's incredible book, The Psychology of Money. We're about to challenge pretty much everything you think you know about what it means to be successful with money.
So, let's just start with a huge question. We're all taught that getting rich is about how smart you are, right? You need the fancy degree. You need to understand the markets inside and out. But what if that's not really the main thing? What if the real key is something else entirely?
Okay, so first up, we're going to bust a major myth right out of the gate. This idea that you have to be some kind of genius to build wealth. And we'll do it by looking at two lives that could not be more different.
First, meet Ronald Reed. This guy was a janitor, a gas station attendant. He lived a super humble life, you know? But when he passed away at 92, this man who most people just completely overlooked left behind an $8 million fortune. He gave most of it to his local hospital and library. Just incredible.
Now, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have Richard Fusicon. This guy was the polar opposite. He had a Harvard MBA, was a top executive at Merrill Lynch. I mean, he had every single advantage you could imagine. He retired in his 40s to a gigantic mansion. We're talking 11 bathrooms and a $90,000 a month maintenance bill. And then he went bankrupt.
So just look at that contrast side by side. The janitor, no college degree, dies a multimillionaire. The Harvard MBA from finance loses everything. What was the crucial difference? It wasn't IQ, it wasn't education, it was patience versus greed. It all just came down to behavior.
And that really gets to the heart of it. Managing money isn't like physics or chemistry. It's a soft skill. It's all about your psychology. How you act is so much more important than what you can plug into a spreadsheet.
Now, that idea about behavior leads us straight to our next point. See, a lot of us think that getting rich and staying rich are the same skill, but they're not. They're actually two completely different things. For this, let's look at the story of Jesse Livermore. He was, by all accounts, a trading genius. I mean, he absolutely mastered the art of getting rich. By the time he was 30, he was worth what would be $100 million today. But he was terrible at staying rich. The timeline of his life is just staggering. In 1929, he made the equivalent of $3 billion today by shorting the market. It was a legendary move. But just 4 years later, all that confidence turned into pure recklessness. He made bigger and bigger and bigger bets and lost it all. He'd perfected getting wealthy, but he never ever learned how to stay wealthy. And this right here reveals the real skill of staying wealthy. It's all about survival. It's about being financially unbreakable so you can just stick around long enough for the magic of compounding to do its thing. It's not about hitting home runs. It's about making sure you never get thrown out of the game.
You know, Warren Buffett just nailed it with this quote. The downfall of so many people, from Livermore to our friend Richard Fusconi, is that they risk what's essential, the money they have and actually need, for something that's not. It's that trap of always wanting more, and it's a dangerous one.
Okay, so this brings us to a really fascinating little psychological quirk that we all have. We think we know what wealth looks like, but we're almost always wrong. Let's bust the visibility myth. I want you to really think about this for a second. It's called the man in the car paradox. We buy all this flashy stuff hoping people will admire us, but they don't. Other people just look at our stuff and use it as a benchmark for what they want. It's wild. We become this invisible bystander in our own show of success. And that's why this distinction is so important. Being rich is visible, right? It's the big paycheck that you spend on fancy cars and huge houses. But being wealthy, that's invisible. It's the money you didn't spend. It's the savings and investments quietly growing in the background, giving you freedom and options.
So the takeaway is simple but powerful. True wealth is quiet. It's all the financial assets that are working for you behind the scenes. It's the exact opposite of what society tells us to look for. Just remember, rich is loud, but wealth is silent.
Okay, let's get into one of the most counterintuitive and frankly coolest ideas in the book. The idea that in investing, you can fail most of the time and still win big. It's time to bust the perfection myth.
This is all about something called the long tails principle. Basically, in a lot of things in life, a tiny number of events are responsible for almost all of the results. So think of it this way. Most of your efforts might just be okay, kind of meh, but one or two can be so successful that they pay for all the other ones and then some.
Venture capital is a perfect example. Look at these numbers. A crazy 65% of VC investments lose money. Most of the rest just make a little bit. But a tiny, tiny fraction, half of 1%. These are the extreme winners, the tails, and they generate pretty much all of the industry's returns. In that world, failure is just the normal, default setting.
And don't think this is just for startups. This is true for the entire stock market. Basically, all of the gains from the Russell 3000 index came from just 7% of the companies. In fact, 40% of the companies in that index were total, catastrophic failures. So it's totally normal for most of your investments to be duds, as long as you find a few huge winners.
And this brings us to the real lesson. Success isn't about having a perfect batting average. Not at all. It's about making sure that when you are right, you're right big enough to cover all the times you were wrong, which, by the way, is an inevitable and totally normal part of the game.
So if wealth isn't about fancy stuff, and it's normal to fail, then what's the whole point? What are we really chasing? In this last section, let's get to the real truth about what money is actually for. And this is it. This is the whole shebang. The single greatest thing money can buy is control over your own time. It's the ability to wake up and live your life on your own terms. That is the ultimate dividend money pays. Not cars, not houses, freedom. And that freedom, it's not some abstract idea. It's real. It's being able to cover a surprise bill without breaking a sweat. It's having the power to quit a job you hate and take your time finding one you love. It's maybe taking a pay cut to have a better, more flexible life. And ultimately, it's retiring when you want to, not when you're forced to.
So we'll leave you with this one question. It's a simple gut check for every single financial decision you make. Are you trading your money for stuff that ends up costing you more of your time and your energy? Or are you using it to buy back your time, your options, and your own independence?